Welcome back to Let's Talk Racism Ireland. I'm your host, Harrison Paul, and today we're going to talk about Congo. I understand that we've gotten through to the semi-finals, but I'm disappointed. Disappointed in the fact that we can celebrate at a time like now. We understand there's a genocide happening in Congo right now. There's millions being displaced. I'll put the images on the screen for you guys to see it. There's millions being displaced right now in Congo. And I want to explain to you guys the difference between the white man and us. I once spoke to a brother who was saying the white man was more practical than us. You'll speak to other brothers who will say the white man is more educated than us, more intellectual. That is not our problem. Education is simply something that's a system that's built according to their desires. They have a capitalist world here, and they build a system and ways and means to teach their people how to climb that system. We could easily build our own system and call that education. We could easily build our own system and call that a system that is of agriculture, all sorts of things, mining. How many kids right now in Congo could teach you how to mine? And how much money could mining make you? How much men could start up a college right now and get you a degree for mining? It's not intellectual. Our problem is self-determination. Our problem is self-determination. I want to ask you the question. Could you see in whatever world where there's kids in the back of UK somewhere being used, being displaced, all the images you are seeing with Congo, could you see that happening in the UK? And meanwhile, the English people are celebrating Harry Kane putting goals in the back of the net? I want you to dive into the psychology behind that. I want you to dive into the level of internalized oppression behind that. That if the white man knew that his family were dying and being used as a cash cow for the African, let's say, and his white little blonde boys and girls were being used to go deep in mines to get out money so the African can build his civilization. Do you think he'd be celebrating Harry Kane? We knew already when Ukraine were in a war. And I forget his name, but the player who plays for Arsenal now went to do an interview with Piers Morgan, holding back tears. What colonization robbed from us African was our sense of self-worth, our sense of self-determination. It has become normal to you to see an African in suffering. And your only excuse is our leaders. If our leaders were truly the cause of this, if our leaders were truly the cause of this due to their greed, I want to unpack that for you and debunk that foolish idea. If a greedy man knows he can get 100 million for his own pleasure, wouldn't he still strive for that 100 million? Meaning, the West owe him 100 million. Wouldn't he still make sure he got his 100 million from the West? Even if he was greedy and kept it all for himself? That African leader does not have a say. Democracy is a lie that they have sold to the African. They will so quickly overthrow you if you disrupt their plans and their systems for white capitalism. Their economic system will crash overnight. Places like Apple crash overnight. Why isn't an African leader as powerful as an Elon Musk, as a Zuckerberg, if he's greedy? Surely his greed would enable him or would drive him to get every inch of what he's worth. He does not have a choice, African. He does not have a choice. He is put in place to keep a mirage. And you think you're playing with people, huh? These people. You talking from the ground here? You don't understand that these Western powers have trained your military? This is between life and death for the African leader. How many people would die for their people? You sit and you ask yourself now, would you die for the African people? I mean, die. You've watched the best of the best been beheaded and killed, chopped up into pieces like it's nothing. If I put you into power tomorrow, would you die for Congo? You're not playing with small people here. Your ability, your hands are tied. Why are we blaming the victim instead of the perpetrator? Because it's an easy scapegoat for you, African. It's easy just to internalize your oppression. Oh, listen, we're a sorry people. We're incapable, we're incompetent. We can't get anything done. This is who we are. And that's it. Then you sleep well at night. Right? Because you don't then have to do the work that's needed and see the enemy for who he really is. Why? Because you want to climb up in his system while he steals from you. And that's good enough for you. That is the low racial self-esteem that colonization caused in the African. It means more to him to climb his way in the heart of the white man and his system and his world than to build your own. Do you know that Lloyd's Bank were approached regarding reparations long before George Floyd's death? And guess what? When George Floyd died, they then apologized, said they were going to give to charity and have a new diversity program in their company. A bunch of apologies. What does this tell you? It tells you, African, when we are focused on the problem. I know it because I do this job full time. Africans don't like to be focused on this problem. We want to think about Fali. We want to dance. We want to move our hips. That's what we think being Congolese means. Being Congolese means you were born into a fight. That is your job to see it to its end. Do you know that black women were 5 times more likely to die from childbirth because of a lack of care from hospitals and doctors? Before George Floyd and after George Floyd and the hot lights that were on the white man, the numbers went down to 4 times more likely to die from childbirth, from a lack of care, from hospitals of white doctors and white nurses. What has happened after the African as he has become desensitized and began to internalize his oppression? He believes that's his worth. He believes he deserves that. I've argued with brothers saying, just face it, man. We are corrupt. We have to accept that's what we are. Uninformed. I want to play a tape for you very quickly. And I want you to get a good look at what we're dealing with here.
When the IMF and the World Bank were created in Bretton Woods in New Hampshire in the United States, it was in 1944. None of the African countries participated in its creation. It was British and American economists, and it was specifically designed at that time during the rebuilding of Europe, the implementation of the Marshall Plan. And when we regained our independence as African countries, were then grafted into it. IMF and World Bank are economic enslavers. What they are designed to do is to ensure that we are in a perpetual state of debt. You can never get out of IMF and Bretton Woods institutions, generally because they want to ensure that they control your economy, and when they control your economy, they control your politics, and when they control your politics, they control you, and when they control you, they bring in military bases, and when they bring in military bases, they determine who governs you, because if you don't play ball, they are going to instigate the armies to overthrow you, because in any event, African armies want to be trained in Sandhurst, they still want to be trained in the United States of America, so their world view is still dictated by those foreign powers. So in order for Africa to play at the heavyweight level, let it be one, so that we have a single ambassador in the United States of America. You imagine that we have only one single ambassador in the United States representing the whole of Africa. People will begin to say, yes, these are people to be respected. When we say that we want a seat in the Security Council, we will be respected. When we have a single currency, we'll be respected. Today, if I want money to be transferred from Dar es Salaam in Tanzania to Nairobi, the money first goes to a correspondent bank in New York before it comes back. We cannot continue to function like that. And the time is now for us to raise our voices and to raise an army of young men and women, an army of intellectually empowered young men and women whose intellectual firepower is going to be deployed in a positive manner for the sake of this continent. It must be done.
When he says intellectual, he means understanding the fight. Because we have a whole lot of degrees in that black community, and still a bunch of people who don't care about Africa. You care about Fumbwa. You care about Mikate. There's a difference. You can wear an Irish, you cannot wear a British jersey walking through Ireland on St. Patrick's Day without finding out. But you could wear an English jersey, a French jersey, a German jersey, an Irish jersey, any jersey walking through any place in Africa and any Independence Day. It wouldn't matter to us. I want Africans to understand that is our problem. We are too busy believing their side of the story. I want to tell you how it would happen. I want to tell you how it would happen if England were the ones going through this situation. They would have their media report on it, and they would have the whole world in one accord that Africans are the devils, which they already do. And we wouldn't have much room to continue crimes such as these. What are we doing? We need to be using our platforms, using our voices, assembling ourselves so we can come on one accord. That no matter, even if the imperialist conjures up documentaries or lies The only reason he can make a system that money has to first go to New York before it goes to another African country. I'm going to play 2 more tapes here. These are 2 of my favorite tapes. And I'm going to play them here so you guys can see them.
IMF, World Bank, all other institutions, they make African countries jump through hoops. Loans will never be able to pay. The US, when they borrow money, they're getting it in 1.5, 1.9 interest rate. Africans, when they get the same amount of money, they're paying 9, 10%. The people who don't need a break, they get a break. The ones who need a break, they don't get a break. The sheer survival of the World Bank, IMF, is based on the fact that African countries and many other developing countries do not succeed. Their success is based on our failure. That has to change. And guess who can make that change? We, the children of Africa, we, the Africans, are the ones who have to say, we know your game now. Enough is enough. We're not playing it anymore. And this is where the diaspora come in. There are more Ghanaian doctors in New York City than in the entire country of Ghana. There are more Nigerian doctors in LA than in the entire country of Nigeria. So let's be serious here. What Africa needs is capacity, capacity, capacity. And that capacity is in the diaspora. So it behooves us to bring the diaspora together. Let them understand what is really going on in our Africa. Diaspora are not going home. Diaspora are angry about Africa because they are not understanding the root cause of why Africa is where it is today. They think getting rid of a president will take care of the problem. Far from it. That president is just going to be replaced by another one who's going to equally suffer from the same difficult environment to work in. So let's look at an Africa that must be free to take care of herself, an Africa that's free from exploitation from outsiders. The multinationals who are stealing from Africa every day in broad daylight. I use an example of the DRC. If you ever fly very low over the DRC, you'll see tarmacs in the jungle. You'll see 747s flying into DRC, picking up minerals and flying right out. The same multinationals are responsible for arming young people and giving them MK-16s. Because why? Their satellites in the skies are telling them where that village is. There are lots of diamonds. So what do? Arm young people, drag them up, and send them to go chop off a few heads. The rest of the village runs away, so they come behind and do their illegal mining. We black people must understand what is really going on. Because what we are shown instead is, oh, look at those Africans killing each other. There are some serious games that have been played in Africa for far too long.
The only reason these things are able to continue, brothers and sisters, is because the black man does not yet think for himself. Whatever the white man has decided is bad, then the Africans take that up as bad. If we had enough BBC's documentaries exposing themselves, you would see Africans all be interested in this topic. I'm sitting here as somebody who is a part of the minority of Africans who are asking themselves, is anybody watching the imperialists do this to Africa? I am part of the minority of people, and all I see is people who don't care. And they act like they care by pointing at our leaders. And that is a 101 description for someone who does not care. That is 101 because that is entry level understanding. Greed, corruption. That's once you start to really get into this topic, you understand that was entry level perception. Once you dig and you love this topic and you dig and you dig and you realize an African leader doesn't have a choice. A decision is already made. There's no democracy in Africa. There's never been. When you read books like Kwame Nkrumah, when he breaks down neocolonialism, you understand that these systems are in place for the profit of Western powers. And here you are, African, celebrating the AFCON, enjoying European spoils. Forgetting about your brothers and sisters dying in the mine. Praying that you get through to the final. I really loved when my wife to be said, it feels unethical to celebrate too much. That's the home I'm coming from. How can you blame your African leader when you yourself know you don't even have that much of a heart for Congo? You just want to blame a leader, and then that's it. You go back to your European dream, huh? Your Western dream. No investigation into the real issues, because it would take anybody who's well read on this topic to understand it must be more than that. We are simplifying this problem. It's overly simplified. If a greedy man was really that greedy, would he not take more for himself? Would he not even get more from the people he's doing a deal with? You need to understand it is vital and important and instrumental that there is a leader. Because without a leader, there's no one for the imperialists to blame. Without a leader, it still shows that we haven't moved far from colonialism. The flag that you guys love to wave, the anthem you guys like to sing, the independence you guys like to celebrate was only a camouflage that you can no longer point your energy towards the real perpetrator. And it vindicates him of having to answer any questions. Just look at the Palestinians. For as long as Israel can, they will bank on the ignorance of the people. Look, it's small progress, but look at the progress Palestine are getting. I have so much respect for the Palestinians. Self-determination. Congo and Africa will get what it's worth when we decide that we are self-determined, when we care, when we see things about ourselves that are false in the diaspora and in the motherland. If you are waiting on a European news outlet to make you care about the scenes in Africa, why hasn't the African mainstream media reported it? If it was the African leaders' fault, surely they would have reported some of it, knowing that they've got nothing to do with it. They don't even want the topic to be spoken about too much. Why is that? If they have no involvement, they enjoy running down Africa and its incompetence. So why all of a sudden they're not getting a kick? Why isn't it the main thing that they're discussing? The money that's still being siphoned from Congo, diamonds, cobalt. Europe will crash overnight. And for as long as you care more about a final than you do about the kids dying in Africa, for as long as you lack that self-determination, that self-respect, I don't care how many degrees you have, African. I don't care how many degrees you have, African. I do not care how many degrees you have, African. You will be no use to your people. Because Nigeria are now the fastest growing economy within Africa, due to the fact that they have now placed manufacturing tools within their nation, within their country. Something that was not there before. That leader has survived 4 coups, and the only reason he can survive them is because we're living in a time where you cannot kill someone, and the only person who will report on it is the BBC. We have great leaders that have news outlets. And when the people are informed on the truth, it gets harder to hide the truth. He is banking on you jumping on cars and dancing at an AFCON final and not caring about him making millions, billions, trillions. That's what he's banking on. So African, are you going to give him what he wants? Or are you going to have some self-respect? Thank you for watching.
And I'm on a mission for you.